Hi, this is Misha, and I've been waiting to do this video when this final ship made it in. Now this is actually just going to be looking at one class, but I've got all four variants here of the Miranda. I've got the original Reliant variant from the Wrath of Khan. Then I've got the one that just came in. This is the USS Lantree from Next Generation. Then we have the USS Boseman, which technically is a Soyuz, but it's a Miranda. And then finally we have the USS Saratoga from Deep Space Nine. So we have two Next Generations, an original, and the Deep Space Nine. The Miranda class is kind of a tradition within Star Trek because it was the first non-Enterprise Federation ship to be seen on screen, and that was in, of course, the Wrath of Khan, making it pretty unique. In the original series, the only other Federation ships we saw were Constitution class, and actually usually pretty low quality models, if not just reuse of the Enterprise. The Miranda was considered a medium cruiser. It went into service, well, we know it was in service by the 2260s. Some sources say 2245 was when it first went into service. Others say around 2255, but we know it was in service by the 2260s, and we know that this ship here, the USS Reliant, was in service by 2267, as its name and registry number appear on a starbase log. Now, of course, back then it looked more like a Constitution class with the traditional nacelles and such. It was upgraded around the same time as the Enterprise, probably after, but we really don't know. So yeah, medium cruiser. These were used for patrol, medium distance exploration, and science survey missions. About 235 to 240 meters long. Hard to get a deck count. Some sources say 11, but that seems a little much. Standard crew was probably 200 to 230, so considerably less than a Constitution. This variant here was equipped for combat. It's got this so-called roll bar on top, which has photon torpedo launcher, and it has omnidirectional phasers. They're called phaser tubes. It has, flip this over without, yep, I know what's going to happen. Come on, don't do that. Alright, whatever. Just trying to keep it on the stand, but oh well. It has shuttle bays in the back, 2 of them, along with the standard impulse engines. It has Constitution refit style nacelles, but they're of course slung from the bottom. It had a cruising speed of around warp 6 with a max speed of around warp 9. Pretty standard layout. It seems like from the Wrath of Khan, this was pretty offensively, I'm just going to lay here, not mess with it. Pretty offensively capable, but maybe didn't have quite the endurance of the Constitution, the Enterprise. So maybe a little more offensively oriented than defensive. It was definitely smaller and whatnot. These would definitely continue in production into the 24th century. One of the next times we see it is this variant here, the USS Lantree type. This is referred to as a Class 6 supply ship in Next Generation. It's in Season 2. It's essentially the same as our Reliant, except no more roll bar. The real world explanation is the roll bar was semi-broken. At least the lighting was, so they just removed it. And the reason this model ended up being used quite a bit in Next Generation was it was one of the few high-quality models they had in the 80s. The TV show didn't have the budget, so they had to make do with the models from the movies. That's why the Oberth and the Excelsior appear. But removing the roll bar kind of makes it look a little less militarized, and so as a supply ship, it does fit. We will continue to see other variants throughout Next Generation. In Season 5, we see the so-called Soyuz class, but it's really just a Miranda with these added on here. This kind of back section added on. It's on the bottom. And we have these kind of side pods. Now in reality, they actually just took the same model as the Lantree and they stuck some bits on. Really, I think they were from a battleship or cruiser kit, you know, like World War II. So they were literally guns. Now, a lot of people will say these are sensor pods. They're guns. But anyway, it was said in the episode that these were in service and they were retired 80 years ago, which would place the retirement in the 2280s. So it seems like it was a specialized Miranda variant, either with guns or sensor pods. Some kind of non-canon sources say these were kind of like Coast Guard cutters in space, patrol ships. They definitely served in the 2270s when tensions with the Klingons were high, so they might have been like a neutral zone patrol ship. Obviously it's got a little more mass because of the rear. And of course this was captained by Fraser Crane. So there's that. Neat. Moving on, we have the Saratoga variant, which is seen in the opening episode of Deep Space Nine, Emissary. Again, it's pretty much your typical variant, no roll bar, but they've added on sensor pods, one on each side. I can accept these as being more like sensor pods than the ones on the Boseman. Plus it was captained by Vulcan, so, you know, Vulcans be all about science, yo. Still has the shuttle bays and whatnot in the back. There was also another variant, the Antares, that only had one sensor pod, but there's not a model of it, at least not yet, from Eagle Moss. This wasn't seen in the original Best of Both Worlds from Next Generation, but when they were doing the Battle of Wolf 359, they intentionally left quite a few ships unnamed, unmentioned, or unseen, so that they could later kind of easily retcon them in, so it worked well for the Saratoga. Now, interestingly, there was a different Miranda-class Saratoga seen in the original films. I believe it was Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. But that seems to be a different ship. There's a final variant seen in Deep Space Nine. When they went to CGI, they went to kind of a more modern style of engine with a lit-up nacelle. It was blue in the back and kind of had a yellow, orangish yellow brassard collector. They also gave it additional glowing impulse in the rear. So all told, we have 5 variants. We have the original Miranda. We have the without the roll bar Lantree. We have the Boseman, which isn't officially counted in the 5, but I have it here. Then we have the Saratoga, which is officially the 4th, with the 3rd being the single sensor pod variant. And then our 5th is our Deep Space Nine War variant. Now, as I said in the Next, in the original series, this was a medium cruiser. By Next Generation, its role had shifted to more of a light cruiser, and it was used for science and supply kind of freighter missions. They're still manufacturing them, though. And then by Deep Space Nine, it was more of a destroyer. And it was used in kind of the role of an escort or a fighter with the upgraded engines. And we still see these in service in 2378 when Voyager comes home. So we know they were in service for well over 100 years, probably closer to 150. As far as Eagle Moss's models, it's kind of funny that they've done so many of this ship. And they're all very similar, but each mold is actually different, and they are very nicely done. And it's just kind of amusing at this point. I'm really glad they made the Boseman. It's very interesting. I'm also glad they made the Saratoga, although I didn't initially buy it when it came out because I wasn't sure. But it's nice to have a Deep Space Nine. Of course, I had the Miranda here. And then, of course, the Lantree just came out in 2019 and figured, why not? It's kind of amusing at this point. It's a little absurd they're doing 4, maybe even, they might even do the Antares variant with the single pod I've read, but it's getting a little absurd. But hey, they've done 3 Klingon birds of prey, all with just different wing positions, so it's not quite as absurd as that. And it's amusing, and you don't have to buy. I mean, they're just options out there. And, you know, really, 3 out of the 4 on the table here have never been available anywhere else. So that's neat for the collectors and Star Trek fans. But yeah, a couple of you have asked about the Miranda, and I was waiting till the Lantree variant, the supply variant, got here. And so when it did, as soon as I had a free Saturday, I recorded it up for you. Any questions or comments, please post them below. If you could, like, share, subscribe. And then just tune in again next time for more kind of fun but pointless videos. This is Misha, and I will catch you very soon then.